The stars looked different today. Ambassador Zixtal noticed this as he stood on the bridge of his ship. His 6 eyes moved across the display screens that showed space around them. Something was wrong. The readings from the yellow star system ahead were not normal. "Sir, we are getting strange signals from the 3rd planet," said his assistant. The young Valerian's voice shook a little. "The energy readings are very high, much higher than any world we know." Zixtal touched the smooth surface of his communication device. The Galactic Council had sent him to check this system because their long-range sensors had picked up signs of intelligent life. This was supposed to be a simple first contact mission. He had done dozens of these before. Most new species were peaceful plant eaters who lived on quiet worlds with gentle weather. "How high are the energy readings?" Zixtal asked. "Sir, the planet shows massive electrical storms, volcanic activity, and weather patterns that would kill. Most life forms we know, but there are cities down there. Millions of them." This made no sense. No intelligent species could live on such a dangerous world. The readings showed a planet with deadly weather, active volcanoes, and radiation levels. That would harm most galactic species. Yet somehow, life had not just survived there. It had built a civilization not far below on the 3rd planet. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of the New Horizon. The ship was humanity's pride, built for deep space exploration. Jake had been in space for 15 years, but today felt different. His instruments were showing something that shouldn't be there. "Captain, we have unknown ships at the edge of our solar system," said Dr. Lisa Grant from her station. She was the ship's expert on alien life, though until today that had been mostly theory. "They're not using any technology we recognize." Jake felt his heart beat faster. First contact. The moment humanity had dreamed about and feared for decades. How many ships? 3 large vessels. "They're not moving toward us, just ... watching." Communications Officer Ryan Brooks looked up from his station. "Sir, I'm getting signals from them. They seem to be trying to talk to us, but I can't understand the language." Jake made his decision quickly. "Lisa, Ryan, you're with me. We're taking a shuttle to meet them halfway. If this goes wrong, Earth needs to know what happened." 2 hours later, Jake found himself floating in space between 2 very different ships. The alien vessel was beautiful, made of some kind of crystal that seemed to glow with its own light. His shuttle looked rough and basic next to it. The airlock opened, and Jake got his first look at an alien being. Zixtal was tall and thin, with skin that looked like purple silk. His 6 eyes were arranged around his head, and he moved with grace that seemed impossible. "I am Ambassador Zixtal of the Valerian Confederacy," the alien said through a translation device. "I speak for the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome your species to the greater community." Jake tried to stay calm. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison, representing humanity and Earth. We're honored to meet you." What happened next would be talked about across the galaxy for years to come. Zixtal asked the standard first contact questions. What was their world like? How had their species developed? What was their technology level? Jake answered honestly. He told them about Earth, about the hurricanes that could destroy cities, the earthquakes that could split the ground open, the deserts where nothing could live without protection. He mentioned the ice ages that had nearly wiped out early humans, and how his species had learned to survive by becoming stronger and smarter. With each answer, Zixtal's 6 eyes grew wider. The readings his ship had taken were correct, but he had hoped they were wrong. This species, these humans, had evolved on a world that the Galactic Council classified as a Class 12 death world. Such planets were considered too dangerous for any intelligent life to develop. "Your world has predators?" Zixtal asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Oh yes," Jake said, not understanding why this seemed to upset the alien. We had to compete with other species for survival. Bears, wolves, big cats. Some of them were much larger than humans, so we had to be smart and work together. Zixtal felt faint. Predators. This species had evolved alongside predators and had learned to outcompete them. In the galactic community, predator species were rare and usually not very intelligent. But humans were clearly both predators and highly intelligent. "Tell me about your weather," Zixtal said, though he was afraid of the answer. Jake smiled. "Well, we have storms that can level forests, tornadoes that can destroy towns, and hurricanes with winds over 200 miles per hour. The temperature can range from 130 degrees above freezing to 100 degrees below. We've learned to build shelters and clothing to protect ourselves." The alien ambassador had to sit down. These beings lived through weather that would kill most galactic species instantly. They spoke of it like it was normal, even pleasant. Dr. Lisa Grant, who had been quiet during the exchange, decided to add some helpful information. "Of course, that's just the natural disasters. We also deal with diseases, poisonous plants and animals, and atmospheric changes. But humans are pretty adaptable." Zixtal's communication device crackled as he sent an emergency message to the Galactic Council. The message was simple, but would change everything. "We have found a species of Deathworlders. They are intelligent, space-capable, and appear friendly. Request immediate council meeting." As the meeting ended and both ships prepared to leave, neither side fully understood what had just happened. Jake thought the aliens seemed nice, but a bit nervous. Zixtal was trying not to panic as he realized the galaxy had just encountered its first Deathworlder species. The news would spread across the galaxy within days. A species that could survive on a Class 12 Deathworld had developed space travel and wanted to join the galactic community. Some would see this as an opportunity. Others would see it as the end of peace in the galaxy. But for now, Jake Morrison flew back to Earth with the greatest news in human history. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. He had no idea that his simple, honest answers about life on Earth had just terrified one of the galaxy's most experienced diplomats. The age of Deathworlders had begun. The news traveled faster than light across the galaxy. Within 3 days, every major civilization knew about the Deathworlders from the third planet of a yellow star. The reports from Ambassador Zixtal had been read by millions of beings, and fear was spreading like a disease. On the crystal world of Veltar, the Galactic Defense Council held an emergency meeting. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all talking at once. Admiral Kethanos of the Crystalline Empire stood at the center podium, his body made of living diamond that reflected the room's lights. "We must act quickly," Admiral Kethanos said, his voice ringing like breaking glass. "This species, these humans, represent a threat we have never faced before. They are predators who survived on a death world. They could destroy our peaceful galaxy." In the back of the hall, Counselor Miralyn of the Gentle Folk raised her flower-like hand. Her species had evolved from plants and believed in peace above all things. "Perhaps we should study them more before we make any decisions." Ambassador Zixtal said they seemed friendly. "Friendly?" Admiral Kethanos laughed, a sound like ice cracking. "They described their world as if constant danger was normal. They spoke of surviving disasters that would wipe out entire civilizations. These are not peaceful beings." Meanwhile, on Earth, President Helen Carter stood before the United Nations General Assembly. The Great Hall was packed with world leaders, scientists, and military officials. Everyone wanted to know what came next now that humanity had made contact with alien life. "My fellow humans," President Carter began, "yesterday, Captain Morrison made contact with beings from another world. They represent something called the Galactic Council, a group of civilizations that spans the stars. They have invited us to join them." The room erupted in excited chatter. General Paul Davis, sitting in the front row, raised his hand. He was a large man with gray hair and scars from old battles. "Madam President, what do we know about their military capabilities?" "General Davis will be forming Earth's first space defense force," President Carter announced. "We don't know if these aliens are truly peaceful, so we must be ready for anything." In her laboratory, Dr. Amy Foster was already deep into studying the technology the aliens had shared during first contact. The small devices they had given Jake Morrison were unlike anything on Earth. They seemed to work by bending space itself, creating energy from nothing. "This is incredible," Dr. Foster said to her assistant. "Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours, but it's designed for beings who are much weaker than humans. Look at this control interface. It's made for creatures with very gentle touch." What Dr. Foster didn't know was that her observation was exactly what terrified the galactic community. Human technology was crude, but built for beings who could survive almost anything. Alien technology was advanced, but designed for delicate species who lived in safe, controlled environments. Back in space, Admiral Kethanos was meeting with his top military advisors. The holographic display showed Earth floating in space, looking blue and peaceful. The appearance was deceiving. "Show them the environmental data again," Admiral Kethanos ordered. The display changed to show Earth's weather patterns. Massive storms swirled across the oceans, each one carrying more energy than most civilizations used in a year. Lightning flashed constantly. The polar regions were covered in ice that could crush their ships. "And they live there?" asked General Krikstal, the insect-like being whose species lived on worlds with perfect weather. "Not just live there, Admiral," Kethanos replied. "They thrive there. They built cities in areas we would consider uninhabitable. They swim in water that would freeze our blood. They climb mountains that reach into space itself." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message. Captain Jake Morrison was requesting another meeting. He wanted to bring more humans to continue the cultural exchange. "Absolutely not," Admiral Kethanos said immediately. "We cannot allow more of them into space until we understand what we're dealing with." But his words came too late. Jake Morrison and his crew were already on their way to the meeting point, and they were bringing friends. The human ship, New Horizon, approached the alien vessel with 2 other Earth ships following behind. Inside the lead ship, Jake Morrison was excited to continue building relationships with their new galactic neighbors. He had brought some of Earth's best people to make a good impression. Dr. Ben Parker was a specialist in human cultures and languages. He was eager to learn about alien societies. Engineer Tom Hughes had come to share human technology and learn about alien science. Captain Maria Santos commanded one of the escort ships and was known for her calm thinking in dangerous situations. What none of the humans realized was that their very presence was causing panic among the alien crew. The humans moved through their ship with confidence and strength that seemed impossible. When Tom Hughes casually lifted a piece of equipment that would take 3 aliens to move, the watching aliens nearly fainted. The meeting took place on a neutral station that had been quickly built for these talks. The station was designed for delicate alien species, with soft lighting and gentle gravity. When the humans arrived, they had to duck through doorways and move carefully to avoid breaking things. "Welcome," Ambassador Zixtal said, though his voice shook slightly. "We are honored to continue our discussions." Jake Morrison smiled and shook hands with the alien ambassador. The handshake, meant as a friendly gesture, made Zixtal stumble backward. Human grip strength was much greater than he had expected. "Sorry about that," Jake said, not realizing what had happened. "We're excited to learn more about your civilization." Dr. Ben Parker stepped forward with a tablet computer. We brought some information about human culture to share with you. Would you like to see some of our entertainment? What happened next would be talked about in alien military academies for generations. Dr. Parker showed them clips from human movies, sports, and television shows. To humans, these were normal forms of entertainment. To the aliens, they looked like training videos for the most efficient warriors in the galaxy. The aliens watched in horror as humans threw themselves out of airplanes for fun, fought each other in organized combat sports, and created fictional stories about surviving impossible odds. One movie showed a single human fighting dozens of enemies and winning. "This is how you entertain yourselves?" Zixtal asked weakly. "Oh, that's just action movies," Dr. Parker said cheerfully. "Most humans enjoy them. We also like sports where teams compete against each other. It helps us stay in shape and work together." Engineer Tom Hughes was meanwhile sharing technical data with the alien scientists. He showed them how human tools were designed to be used in harsh conditions, how human vehicles could operate in extreme environments, and how human buildings were constructed to survive natural disasters. "Your construction methods are very robust," one alien engineer said. "Diplomatically, we have to build things tough on Earth," Tom replied. "Earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, you never know what nature might throw at you. Better to be ready for anything." As the cultural exchange continued, the reports being sent back to the Galactic Council became more and more alarming. These humans didn't just survive on a death world. They had turned survival into an art form. They competed with each other to become stronger and faster. They created entertainment based on conflict and danger. They built everything to survive disasters that most species couldn't even imagine. Admiral Kethanos read the reports with growing concern. These Deathworlders weren't just physically superior. They thought differently than any species the galaxy had ever encountered. Where other beings sought safety and comfort, humans seemed to seek challenge and growth. The question that kept him awake at night was simple. What did beings like this want from a galaxy full of peaceful civilizations? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected. 6 months after first contact, the Galactic Council had built Aurora Station in the empty space between human and alien territories. The station was supposed to be a place where both sides could meet safely and learn about each other. Instead, it had become a source of daily confusion and growing fear. Ambassador Claire Nelson walked through the station's main corridor, followed by her team of human diplomats and scientists. She was a calm woman who had spent years working with different cultures on Earth, but nothing had prepared her for this. Every alien they passed seemed to flinch when they saw humans coming. Ambassador Nelson called Dr. Ben Parker, jogging, to catch up with her. He carried a thick folder full of notes about the various alien species they had met. "I think we have a problem." Claire stopped walking and turned to face him. Around them, the station hummed with activity, but she noticed that aliens and humans stayed in separate areas. "What kind of problem?" "They're afraid of us," Dr. Parker said quietly. "Not just nervous, actually terrified. Yesterday, I tried to show a group of Xanthari children some pictures of Earth animals. When I showed them a house cat, 3 adults fainted." Claire rubbed her forehead. This was not going well. A house cat? Apparently, to them, cats look like perfect killing machines. Small, fast, with sharp claws and teeth. The fact that we keep them as pets made them think we're training personal assassins. This was just the latest in a series of misunderstandings. Last week, a human maintenance worker had been banned from the alien quarters after he fixed a broken door. The aliens had watched him use basic tools and physical strength to repair something their engineers said couldn't be fixed. They decided he must be some kind of super soldier in disguise. The communication problems were getting worse, not better. When humans tried to be friendly, Aliens saw aggression. When humans solved problems, aliens saw military tactics. When humans shared their culture, aliens saw evidence of a warrior society preparing for conquest. Dr. Ben Parker had documented dozens of these incidents. Human children's games looked like combat training to aliens. Human sports looked like warfare. Human music, with its strong beats and loud sounds, reminded them of war drums. Even human laughter, hearty and loud, sounded threatening to species that communicated in whispers. "We need to try a different approach," Claire said. "What about the technical exchange program? How's that going?" "About as well as you'd expect." Dr. Parker replied with a sighed out down in the station's engineering section. The technical exchange was indeed having problems. Engineer Tom Hughes stood in front of a group of alien scientists, trying to explain how human machines worked. The aliens sat far away from him, as if he might explode at any moment. "This is a standard Earth drill," Tom said, holding up what looked like a normal power tool. "We use it to make holes in concrete and steel." The aliens exchanged nervous glances. To them, any device that could cut through metal was a weapon. The fact that humans used such tools for everyday construction projects seemed impossible. "How do you control such dangerous equipment without injury?" asked Engineer Quoval, a blob-like being whose species used only the gentlest tools. Tom scratched his head. "Well, you just point it where you want the hole and pull the trigger. It's pretty simple," the aliens gasped. The casual way this human talked about using a metal-cutting device was exactly what they feared. These beings didn't just have access to dangerous tools. They used them without thinking about it. "Don't worry," Tom said, trying to be helpful. "If you're careful and wear safety gear, it's perfectly safe. I've been using tools like this since I was 12 years old." This made things worse. Not only did humans use dangerous equipment casually, but they started training their children to use it at a young age. To the aliens, this sounded like a species that raised its young to be warriors from childhood. The situation reached a crisis point when maintenance worker Steve Clark saved a group of alien dignitaries from what humans would consider a minor emergency. A power coupling had failed in one of the station's sections, leaving a group of important aliens trapped behind a stuck door. The alien engineers said it would take hours to safely shut down the power and carefully remove the door without causing damage. Steve Clark had been walking by when he heard about the problem. He looked at the situation for about 30 seconds, then grabbed a manual override tool and forced the door open. The whole rescue took less than 5 minutes. To Steve, this was just basic problem solving. To the watching aliens, it looked like a demonstration of superior tactical thinking and physical capability. Steve had quickly analyzed a complex problem, chosen the most efficient solution, and executed it without hesitation. These were exactly the skills that made perfect military commanders. The aliens were further shocked when Steve refused any reward for his actions. "Just doing my job," he said with a shrug, and walked away. Captain Maria Santos was having similar problems with her crew aboard the ship Endeavour. They had been assigned to patrol the space around Aurora Station and help any ships in distress. Maria thought this would be a good way to show the aliens that humans were helpful and peaceful. Instead, every rescue mission seemed to make the aliens more nervous. When they saved a damaged alien freighter from drifting into an asteroid field, the alien crew couldn't understand how humans had managed to navigate through the dangerous space rocks so easily. When they helped repair a broken alien research vessel, the aliens were amazed that humans could work in the dangerous conditions near a gas giant's radiation field. "Captain," said her first officer, Lieutenant Kevin Ross, "I'm getting reports that some alien species are requesting military escorts when they travel through our patrol area." "Military escorts? Why?" Maria asked. "They're not afraid we'll attack them," Kevin explained. "They're afraid that if something goes wrong, they'll owe us a debt they can't repay. They think we're so much better at handling emergencies that accepting our help would make them look weak. This was the heart of the problem. The aliens weren't just afraid of human strength. They were afraid of human competence. Humans made difficult things look easy, dangerous situations look manageable, and complex problems look simple. To species that struggled with challenges humans considered normal, this was both inspiring and terrifying. The misunderstandings were creating two camps within the galactic community. Some species thought humans should be contained before they became too powerful. Others believed humans could help solve problems that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. Admiral Kethanos represented the first group. He had been gathering support for a plan to limit human expansion into galactic space. They are too dangerous to be allowed free movement through our territory, he argued in council meetings, but others disagreed. Counselor Miralyn of the Fa. Gentle folk had been studying the human rescue missions. They save lives, she said in response to Admiral Kethanos. Every time we have seen them act, they have helped others. Is this not what we should encourage? The debate raged across the galaxy. Military leaders pointed to human capabilities as evidence of a potential threat. Scientists and diplomats pointed to human actions as evidence of good intentions. Meanwhile, the humans on Aurora Station remained mostly unaware of the growing controversy. They continued trying to build friendships with their alien neighbors, not understanding that their every action was being analyzed for hidden military significance. Ambassador Claire Nelson called a meeting of all human personnel on the station. A conference room was filled with diplomats, scientists, engineers, and military officers. Everyone looked confused and frustrated. We need to figure out what we're doing wrong, Claire said. Every attempt at friendship seems to make them more suspicious of us. Dr. Ben Parker raised his hand. I think the problem is that we're trying to be ourselves, and ourselves is apparently terrifying to them. So what do we do? Asked Engineer Tom Hughes. Pretend to be weaker than we are? Maybe we need to understand why they're so scared, suggested Captain Maria Santos. What is it about us that frightens them so much? The answer to that question was about to become very clear. News was spreading through the galaxy about a threat that made even the alien military leaders nervous. An enemy was coming that would test whether humans were the galaxy's salvation or its doom. The Void Swarm had been detected at the galaxy's edge, and they were heading for the core worlds. The emergency alert echoed through every ship, station, and world in the galaxy. The Void Swarm had returned. Long-range sensors showed millions of dark ships, moving toward the galactic core worlds like a massive storm cloud of death. Admiral Kethanos stood in the Galactic Defense Center, watching the display screens with growing horror. The Void Swarm was not like other enemies. They were a hive-minded species that consumed everything in their path. They had no interest in negotiation or peace, only in feeding their endless hunger for resources and energy. How long until they reached the first inhabited systems? Admiral Kethanos asked his staff. 3 weeks, sir, replied his tactical officer. Maybe less if they increase speed. The galactic military had fought the Void Swarm before, always barely managing to drive them back after losing millions of lives and dozens of worlds. Their last attack, 50 years ago, had nearly broken the galaxy's defenses completely. Now they were back, and their fleet was larger than ever. In the council chambers, an emergency session was already in progress. Representatives from hundreds of species argued about what to do. Some wanted to evacuate the core worlds. Others suggested hiding and hoping the swarm would pass by. A few even proposed surrendering entire systems to satisfy the swarm's hunger. Counselor Miralyn of the Gentle Folk raised her flowery hand to speak. There is another option we have not discussed, she said quietly. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what she was thinking, but no one wanted to say it out loud. You want to ask the Deathworlders for help, Admiral Kethanos said, his crystal body reflecting his anger in sharp red light. The humans have shown they are capable of things we cannot do, Miralyn replied. Perhaps they can help us with this problem too. Absolutely not, Admiral Kethanos declared. We cannot invite predators to help us fight predators. It would be like asking one disease to cure another. But as the debate continued, more and more council members began to see that they had few choices. The galactic military was designed for defense and peacekeeping, not for fighting an aggressive enemy like the Void Swarm. Their ships were built for exploration and diplomacy, not warfare. Their soldiers were trained to protect civilians, not to attack enemies. Meanwhile, on Aurora Station, the humans had detected the same threat. The station's human crew gathered in their main meeting room, studying the data they had intercepted from galactic communications. This Void Swarm sounds like bad news, said Captain Maria Santos. She had been reading reports about their previous attacks on galactic civilizations. Admiral Rachel Stone, who had recently arrived to oversee human military operations in galactic space, nodded grimly. According to these reports, they're a hive. Mind that strips planets bare of all resources. They don't negotiate, don't retreat, and don't stop until everything is consumed. Dr. Emma Hayes, the chief medical officer, looked up from her medical reports about previous swarm attacks. The survivors describe creatures that show no mercy to civilians. They attack hospitals, schools, refugee camps, anywhere there are people to harvest. Colonel Nick Thompson, commander of the human military units stationed near the galaxy's core, had been studying tactical reports. Their previous attacks followed the same pattern every time. They overwhelmed defenses with massive numbers, then stripped the planets of everything useful. The galactic forces always fight defensively, trying to protect everything at once. What would you do differently? Admiral Stone asked. Colonel Thompson smiled grimly. Hit them before they hit us. Take the fight to them, instead of waiting for them to attack. Focus on destroying their ability to coordinate rather than trying to protect every single target. This kind of thinking was exactly what made aliens nervous about humans. Where galactic species saw the need to protect and preserve, humans saw the need to attack and destroy threats before they could cause harm. The debate about human involvement reached a critical point when Ambassador Zixtal visited Aurora Station to speak with the human leadership directly. He had been chosen because he was the first alien to meet humans, making him something of an expert on their species. Ambassador Claire Nelson met him in the station's diplomatic quarters. The room was designed to be comfortable for both species, though Zixtal still seemed nervous around humans. Ambassador Zixtal, Claire said warmly, I understand the galaxy is facing a serious threat. Yes, Zixtal replied, his 6 eyes darting around the room as if looking for hidden dangers. The Void Swarm has returned. The Council is discussing options. Claire could tell there was more to it than that. And one of those options involves asking for human help. Zixtal's silence was answer enough. We would be honored to help defend innocent lives, Claire said simply. This was exactly what Zixtal had hoped and feared she would say. Humans seemed to have no hesitation about entering dangerous situations to help others. It was one of their most admirable and terrifying qualities. The Council is concerned about the implications, Zixtal said carefully. If we asked for your military assistance, what would you expect in return? Claire looked confused. Expect in return? We're talking about stopping an invasion that threatens millions of innocent people. What would we expect except the chance to help save lives? Zixtal felt his legs become weak. This human spoke of entering a galactic war as if it were a simple favor between neighbors. She showed no interest in gaining territory, resources, or political power. She just wanted to help. You would send your military forces to fight and possibly die for people you have never met? Zixtal asked. Of course, Claire replied without hesitation. Wouldn't you? This question highlighted the fundamental difference between humans and most galactic species. Humans had evolved as pack hunters who protected their group above all else. But somehow, they had expanded their definition of group to include anyone who needed help within hours. Admiral Rachel Stone was presenting humanity's offer to the Galactic Defense Council via long-range communication. Her message was simple and direct. The human fleet stands ready to assist in the defense of galactic civilization, she said. We have studied the available data about the Void Swarm and believe we can contribute meaningfully to the defense effort. Admiral Kathanos objected immediately. We cannot allow an unknown military force to operate in our territory. These humans could use the crisis to establish their own power base. But Counselor Miralyn had a different perspective. They are offering to help defend our worlds, not conquer them. Perhaps we should judge them by their actions, not our fears. The debate might have continued for days, but the Void Swarm made the decision for them. Their advanced scouts had reached the outer systems and begun their attacks. The first distress calls were already coming in. Colonel Nick Thompson received authorization to deploy human forces just as the first reports of contact with the swarm arrived. His ship, the Valiant, led a small fleet of human vessels toward the battle zone. Dr. Emma Hayes went with them, bringing human medical teams to help with casualties. She had no idea that human emergency medicine, developed for a species that lived on a death world, would prove revolutionary in treating injuries that normally killed galactic beings within minutes. The first engagement between human forces and the Void Swarm took place near a mining colony on the edge of galactic space. The alien defenders had been overwhelmed in hours. When the human fleet arrived, they found a situation that galactic military doctrine said was hopeless. Sir, the colony is surrounded, reported Lieutenant Dan Miller from his scanning station. Swarm forces have them completely cut off. Our orders are to evacuate the survivors. Colonel Thompson studied the tactical display. The swarm had indeed surrounded the colony with overwhelming numbers. A conventional rescue would be suicide. Negative, Colonel Thompson said. We're not evacuating. We're attacking. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. Instead of trying to break through the swarm's lines to reach the colony, the human fleet attacked the swarm forces from multiple directions at once. They used hit-and-run tactics, forcing the enemy to split their attention and respond to threats from all sides. Sergeant Dan Miller led the first ground assault, taking a small team directly into the most dangerous part of the battle, where galactic forces would have tried to establish secure positions and slowly advance. The humans moved fast and hit hard, always attacking where the enemy least expected it. The swarm, used to fighting defensive-minded galactic forces, didn't know how to respond to enemies who seemed to seek out the most dangerous situations. Their hive mind was designed to coordinate responses to predictable threats, not to deal with unpredictable humans who treated impossible odds as interesting. Challenges. Within 6 hours, the human forces had not only rescued the colony's survivors, but had destroyed the entire swarm attack force. They had done something the galactic military had never accomplished. They had won a decisive victory against the Void Swarm. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. The Deathworlders had met the galaxy's greatest enemy and defeated them completely. Some aliens celebrated this victory. Others wondered if they had just traded one threat for another. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same. 2 years had passed since the humans helped defeat the Void Swarm. The galaxy was different now, safer, stronger, and more united than it had ever been. But the biggest change was not in technology or politics. It was in how different species saw each other and themselves. Fleet Admiral Chris Wade stood on the bridge of the new flagship Unity, watching as ships from dozens of different species conducted joint training exercises. Human vessels flew alongside crystalline Valtari cruisers, while flower-shaped gentlefolk science ships worked with insect-like Xanthari fighters. "Admiral, the training exercise is complete," reported his aide, a young Valtari officer named Kintel. "All species performed within acceptable parameters." Chris smiled. 2 years ago, most galactic species could barely work together. Now they were training as one unified force. "What were the casualty rates in the simulation?" "0, sir." 4. The 15th exercise in a row. This was the real victory. Human military doctrine had always focused on minimizing losses while achieving objectives. When combined with alien technology and different species' natural abilities, the result was a military force that could handle any threat without unnecessary sacrifice. Dr. Jennifer Cole walked through the corridors of the Galactic Science Institute, the newest and most advanced research facility in known space. The building was a perfect example of what different species could accomplish when they worked together. Human engineering had provided the structural framework that could withstand any natural disaster. Valtari crystal technology powered everything with clean, endless energy. Gentlefolk biological systems cleaned the air and water. Xanthari computing networks managed information flow. Dr. Cole called her research partner a blob-like scientist named Professor Gluval. The latest test results are remarkable. Jennifer looked at the data on her screen. They were developing new medical treatments that combined human emergency medicine with alien healing technology. Injuries that would have been fatal to any species just 2 years ago were now completely treatable. "This is going to save so many lives," Jennifer said with satisfaction. "Indeed," Professor Gluval agreed. "Though I must admit, when I first met humans, I never imagined we would be working together to heal people. Your species seems so dangerous." Jennifer laughed. "We are dangerous, but we're dangerous to the right things. Disease, suffering, ignorance, and threats to innocent people. That's what being strong is really for." This understanding had spread throughout the galaxy. Humans were indeed powerful, but they used that power to protect and help others. The same instincts that made them effective warriors also made them effective healers, teachers, and protectors. Commander Laura Bell stood before the graduating class of the Integrated Species Military Academy. The students were a mix of humans and aliens, all trained together in the new combined military doctrine. They had learned to use each species' strengths to cover other species' weaknesses. "Today, you become the first truly galactic military force in history," Commander Bell told them. "You represent not just your own species, but the hopes and dreams of billions of beings across the galaxy." In the front row sat Cadet Kevin Park, a human who had learned to pilot Valtari crystal ships. Next to him sat Cadet Sixani, a young Valtari who had mastered human tactical thinking. Behind them were dozens of other young beings who saw each other not as different species, but as teammates and friends. The graduation ceremony was attended by leaders from across the galaxy. President Alex King of Earth sat next to Counselor Miralyn of the Gentlefolk and Admiral Kethanos of the Crystalline Empire. Admiral Kethanos had changed the most of anyone. 2 years ago, he had seen humans as a threat to galactic peace. Now he was one of their strongest supporters. "I was wrong about your species," he admitted to President King during the ceremony. "I thought strength meant conquest. You showed us that strength means protection." President King smiled. "We learned something too. We thought we were alone in wanting to explore the stars and help others. Finding out that the whole galaxy shares those dreams, that's been the real gift of first contact." After the ceremony, The new graduates scattered to assignments across the galaxy. Some would explore new worlds together. Others would protect trade routes from pirates and raiders. All of them carried the same message, that different species working together could accomplish anything. The changes were visible everywhere. On trading stations, human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to solve problems that had puzzled the galaxy for centuries. In hospitals, human doctors learned alien healing techniques while teaching emergency medicine to species that had never faced serious injuries before. But perhaps the most important changes were in the small, everyday interactions. Alien children no longer hid when they saw humans. Human tourists were welcomed on worlds that had once feared to let them land. Cultural exchange programs brought young beings from different species together to learn from each other. Claire Nelson, now Director of Interspecies Relations, received a message that made her smile. It was from a young gentlefolk named Petal-son, who was studying at a human university on Earth. Dear Ambassador Nelson, the message read, I wanted to thank you for making this student exchange program possible. When I first came to Earth, I was terrified of your world's dangerous weather and scary animals. Now I understand that living with challenges makes being stronger and more creative. I am studying to become an engineer so I can help design buildings that will protect my people from the storms that sometimes hit our world. I never thought I would be grateful for danger, but humans have taught me that facing difficulties makes us grow. Thank you for showing us that being different can make us stronger together. This was exactly what Claire had hoped would happen. Humans and aliens were learning from each other, becoming better versions of themselves through friendship and cooperation. The real test of this new galactic unity came when long-range sensors detected another threat at the galaxy's edge. It wasn't the Void Swarm this time, but something else, a rogue artificial intelligence that had consumed several star systems in a neighboring galaxy. The response was immediate and unified. Within days, a combined fleet was assembled with representatives from every major species. Human tactical expertise was combined with Veltari energy technology, Gentlefolk biological systems, and Zenthari computing power. Fleet Admiral Chris Wade commanded the mission, but his staff included officers from a dozen different species. When they faced the rogue AI, they didn't fight as separate groups working together. They fought as one unified force with a shared purpose. The battle was won not through superior firepower, but through superior cooperation. Each species contributed their unique abilities to a plan that no single species could have executed alone. On Aurora Station, now the diplomatic and cultural center of the galaxy, beings from hundreds of worlds gathered to celebrate the victory. Human children played with alien youngsters. Scientists from different species shared discoveries. Artists collaborated on works that no single species could have imagined. Ambassador Zixtal, now elderly but still serving as a bridge between humans and the galactic community, watched the celebration with satisfaction. He remembered his terror when he first met Captain Jake Morrison and learned about the Deathworlders from the third planet of a yellow star. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? Asked Ambassador Claire Nelson, joining him at the observation deck. Never, Zixtal admitted. When I first met your species, I thought the galaxy was doomed. I thought predators and prey species could never coexist peacefully. What changed your mind? Zixtal watched as a human child helped a young Zenthari, who had fallen down, carefully lifting the insect-like being back to its feet with gentle strength. I realize that you are predators, he said slowly, but you prey on the right things: injustice, suffering, ignorance, and threats to the innocent. You hunt problems and destroy them so that others can live in peace. As the celebration continued, around them, Claire and Zixtal watched the next generation of galactic citizens, learning that their differences were not barriers to overcome, but strengths to be shared, The galaxy had indeed taken notice when the Deathworlders arrived. They had noticed that strength without compassion was meaningless, that different didn't mean dangerous, and that the most powerful species in the galaxy was also the most dedicated to protecting everyone else. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And somewhere in space, new ships carrying mixed crews of humans and aliens were heading toward the stars, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might offer. They were no longer separate species sharing a galaxy. They were one people exploring the infinite together.